guys, Tools20 here and welcome back to Springwood. Today's episode, we're back in the city and we're going to be working on a bit of industrial in this episode. Springwood's biggest mineral export, is going to be oil. So the industrial parks of Springwood are mostly going to hold a lot of oil drums and exporting facilities. So that's something that I'm going to start implementing now. This is going to set a bit of a base for what they're going to look like. For this particular industrial park, we're working on it's pretty close to the northern part of the downtown, near the old town of the city, and I guess the main source of exports, the main way of transporting this oil would be just from the train line. I mean, it's not really that close. It's close to the water, more of the canal, but it doesn't actually access the water that well. So it's really important for me to use the train line for this build, and that's where I'm actually going to start this build, is just mapping out where this train line is going to be. And I'm also mapping out a little bit where I want future oil facilities to be. And this train line here is just one of many that is going to service this main export. So if you're not familiar with Springwood, and I think I probably say this in every single episode, but it's inspired by Los Angeles. So much of the builds that I'm doing are based on actual places in LA. In particular, this build, I'm focusing on the lower south side of LA. Like, I don't know any of the names for like Los Angeles suburbs and stuff, but if Grand Theft Auto San Andreas has taught me anything, this is close to the dock area of Los Angeles. And the reason, I mean, like, I'm taking parts from this area, but other parts I'm not really. I mean, like I said before, this particular oil exchange is only accessible via vehicles like cars and trains. There's no dock around here. Like, I'll be working on more of a dock when I actually cross the river, the Springwood River. But I guess this particular build is just to support a little bit of the oil exchange that's happening in Springwood. This whole northern part of Springwood is actually going to be very much dedicated to the south side of Los Angeles. Also, when I cross the river, that's going to be a bit more south side of Los Angeles. Like, I want there to be quite a lot of industrial pockets, but also sprawling neighborhoods. Yeah, like, I'm really excited to be working on this area, and once this place is finished, because I guess I already seen the finished products, but like, I think it looks really cool, and I'm really excited to see where it ends up kind of developing. Huge thanks to everybody who joined Skibitth and Bawambaa and myself the other night, last Friday night. Well, actually, it was my Saturday morning, but we did a live stream on Skibitth's channel. He does a live stream every Friday night. He's very dedicated to it. I don't know how he does it. He's a very, very, very dedicated YouTuber. So, I mean, if you haven't checked out his channel, you definitely should. But yeah, when we just did a live stream and we did some building, well, he did some building, Bawambaa and I just answered some pretty awkward questions, but it was good fun. Like, I hope he invites us both over again. But yeah, I mean, like, if you're not familiar with Skibitth's work, he's actually currently starting a new series just dedicated to the live stream, which is pretty exciting. I haven't really seen anybody else do it. And yeah, I mean, like, you pretty much get, I mean, if you join him every week, you pretty much get a good say in the development of the city that he's building. And yeah, we had a bit of a good say in what he was doing there, and it was a lot of fun. And also, check out Bawambaa's work. I mean, if you're not familiar with him as well, he's a definitely very talented YouTuber and city skyline builder. He's building at the moment one of my favorite styles of builds. He's essentially building the deep south of America, and he's nailing it. Like, he's got all this swampy marshlands, and he's currently, I mean, I think it's episode 3 or something like that, and he's got some really beautiful big mansions and grotty old houses, and like fun fact, Bawambaa actually writes and records all of his own music for each episode, which is just crazy good, and it's all really nice music. So, I mean, I highly recommend going and checking out his new series, Sunshine River. You get beautiful music, and you also get a beautiful build as well. So, I mean, 2 YouTubers highly recommend going and checking out. Back to what I'm doing on the time lapse, and what I'm doing is I'm just mapping out where I want roads to sit and where I want the drums to sit, you know, sorting out the biggest areas first, and then I can get into the more nitty-gritty details a little bit later. And I've just been using a lot of these pavement roads because I'm going to be using the ploppable asphalt mods to make these roads that are quite wide to hold, you know, just huge amounts of traffic of oil rigs and just these trucks that are coming to dock, I guess, export or transport different just the oil from different locations in the city or in the regions. Like I said, I have no idea how these places work, just going off pictures. But I do really like these big roads, they're really interesting shapes, and that's definitely the theme for this build. So as I start plopping down the ploppable asphalt, it doesn't take long to realize that this ground isn't quite as flat as I thought it was, which is, yeah, I mean, it's kind of essential when it comes to using this mod, but at the same time, it does create some light gaps where the asphalt does come through, like the grey concrete comes through, and I do use that a little bit to my advantage, because when it does kind of creep through, it looks like it's cracked a little bit, and these areas, in these industrial areas, are definitely not perfect. So I did want to create that. I wanted a little bit of imperfection, so I do use that to a little bit of my advantage. Down here, this is where I'm going to be putting in the dock for the trucks that are coming in. And like I said before, this particular industrial park, this oil park, is really just a way of transporting oil via cars, like via the trucks, and then probably via the trains. I'm not really sure where it would go after that, but I mean, it's definitely not something that gets exported worldwide. It's this, I guess, all the oil that would be transported to other countries would be along the dock area. So, I mean, I don't really see this as a really large one, just maybe just like a small sort of oil exchange. What I really like about these areas is I like that there's like this really dirty, all over the place industrial, but then where there is a office, it's kind of, they've put a little bit more effort into it. So I wanted to create this area here as the office space with a bit more of a garden, some trees, and an area for people to park. Looking at the map of LA, at all these really huge industrial parks that are just scattered around the south of Los Angeles, they're really kind of interesting to see where the train line snakes around and connects them all up. So it seems to be that the train line is pretty much like the best means of transport oil. Like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I really like that there's this central train line, and then it connects all these different oil exchanges up together. And I mean, it's so seamless, so you don't really see this train line really anywhere. And then but then when you look out for it, you can see how well it connects everything together. I guess I find it interesting because in Sydney we've got like one train line or something. We just really don't have the sort of network that LA does. So it kind of fascinates me to see this train line from bird's eye view and imagine what it must actually look like in LA. I mean, I'd love for anybody who's watching this video just to comment and let me know like what it actually is like living in LA, and whether this network is actually everywhere or whether it's just me just looking at a map and makes it look like it is. But I guess, yeah, compared to Sydney, I mean, we just don't have that sort of infrastructure in Sydney. But Los Angeles seems to have just this cargo network just everywhere. So I find that quite interesting. I guess big picture for Springwood is to have a lot of these oil industrial parks scattered around everywhere in the city. I guess in the outer burbs of the city. In particular, when I do cross the river, there'll be tons sitting around the dock area. And I would really love to have a really well-established train network that does connect all these industrial parks together, and every oil industrial park will have some sort of connection to the train network, and the train network filters off and goes off into the regions where all the oil is actually dug up from, which, like, I'm really excited to get into that side of things and building a bit more of a, like I always talk about it, but a bit more of a character within Springwood, where we do know that, like, just even by looking at it, that oil is a huge export for this city. Whether you go out into the countryside or you're in the industrial areas of the city, you know, you can actually tell that. But back to what I'm doing in the time lapse, and what I'm trying to do is just make the grounds look a bit more worn down. And I found like a really, really great technique just to use these big decal stains that just make it look like the ground is worn down where all the trucks have been coming in. If you'd imagine that the trucks have made the journey from the desert in the outer suburbs of the city or the countryside, and they're just bringing all this dirt as they come in. So I wanted the ground to look, I wanted the concrete to look like it had been really worn down in particular areas. And I think I captured that look really well. I mean, I used tons of props and decals to get that look, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And I think the trick is to just kind of stick with a particular decal and just rotate it and flip it upside down and just swap it around heaps, because the more variety of decals you use, I think it kind of looks a bit unnatural, whereas if you just kind of stick with one, then it kind of looks a bit more realistic. And plus, they can do this thing where they just fight to go to the top of each other, and they can just do this hovering thing, which I really, really hate. So I really try hard not to ever have that. But I mean, it's really quite hard with these areas because you do want, because a lot of these areas are just concrete. So without trying to just spend, trillions of hours making these areas look detailed, you have to just use these decals just to plop down to certain areas. And I am really aware that there is a prop limit, so I'm really trying hard not to be too prop heavy, but yeah, I mean, it really can't help it. And once you start propping, you really can't stop. what I'm doing now is I'm trying to build a custom oil transport station, train station, cargo station, for the oil to come in via the trains. That's a bit of a long-winded way of saying that. And when I say custom, I wanted it to look a particular way, but I just couldn't find any cargo hubs in like train hubs on the workshop. So just decided to make my own. And I think like when I started making it, really highlighted to me that we're really getting past the age in this game where we have to wait for the workshop to deliver something to us. And when I say that, I mean a cargo hub to look a particular style, particular way. You know, I was searching for hours, and not hours, but a while, and really couldn't find anything that I wanted. And then like, it just occurred to me that I can actually just splice different buildings together using the Find It mod. And now that we can just plop growables wherever you like and they won't despawn or complain about anything, like, you can just make, whatever you like, which is really, really cool. Once I did this, I just unsubbed to a whole bunch of buildings that I've just been holding off, like I've been waiting to use them, and I'm not going to, because I can actually just make whatever I like using growables. And yeah, I think that's really, really cool. I think the game has progressed so much that we can actually do that. A feature of these sort of areas, they have these warehouses and workstations scattered around all over the place in these industrial parks. So it's not just a park that's dedicated to oil. I guess this factories, this warehouse might have some sort of purpose for oil, but it kind of seems like these areas can just have workshops and can just have factories, and they don't really seem to I don't know, they seem to serve different purposes. So I was kind of playing with just plopping down different warehouses and factories just in random locations, like you can see up there in the top. I also, something that I kind of didn't do quite as much as I had anticipated, was to make a lot of car parks to hold a bit of the transport for the workers to get to. This one is just a bit of a custom one that I started plopping down and making. And to be honest, I'm really not a fan of making car parks. I actually really hate it. That's actually one of the questions that Skib asked during the live stream was, what do you hate making in City Skylines, or what do you find tedious? And I can't really remember what my answer was, but I think if I was going to redo the answer, then I'd probably say popping down a car park. I find them really tedious. Probably because I've made so many now. I am breaking up a lot of this concrete with just grass patches, and if you're not familiar with my textures, my map theme, I'm using a custom one, the Springwood custom map theme, made by Ronix, so it's super good quality, and he's made this really nice sand texture. It's basically oil, which is really handy because this whole park is oil, but this is this oil texture here, and if you just lightly paint it down, it just lightly paints down the sand's texture there. And that's what I want to be more scattered around the city. I guess this city is a mixture of quite lush grass texture and also quite a bit of sand, because as we creep off into the greater regions of Springwood, I am going to start getting into a bit more of a desert, which I'm kind of really keen to get into soon. I mean, I'm almost tempted just to do one episode dedicated to just like a distance neighborhood, or maybe even just like a truck stop or something. I mean, if you're interested in something like that, please let me know, and I mean, you might persuade me if you can come up with a really cool idea. But I mean, I'm really thinking about sandy shores in San Andreas, and you know, things like that. I mean, that's pretty much the closest I've come to well, I've been to LA once, but I mean, I was pretty young. But if I had the chance to do it again, I'd be really interested to visit all those those outer regions of LA and get into more of those, I don't know, those sort of areas. Up here, what I'm doing here is it's basically what I was explaining before, was my ground definitely isn't level, so I am using that to my advantage when it comes to the poppable asphalt mod, and just making it look like the concrete's broken up and has different textures. It works sometimes, and it sometimes really just doesn't work. I think it works in this industrial park, but it definitely doesn't in some areas. So I think it was at about this point in this build where I realized that I actually didn't have any oil tankers, any trucks to fill my industrial park up with, and I couldn't even subscribe to them because I had actually gone offline to avoid the update. So it really, like, I just couldn't plop down a lot of oil resources, and I couldn't even download them, which is kind of frustrating. And then I accidentally did go online, and I was worried that I just wouldn't be able to finish the episode. And I mean, I think we all had a pretty smooth transition in this update, which is pretty nice. I mean, it usually totally ruins our game for a couple of weeks. And yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to all the awesome modders who are just on top of it, and pretty much as soon as the update came out, they all updated their mods, which is just so cool. I mean, it's really cool to have a community that is so invested in keeping people in game and happy. So yeah, I'm like super grateful to all those modders who do a lot of the stuff that they do for free. I mean, yeah, big cheers to you guys. But look, we're coming to the end of the episode, and I just want to say thanks to everybody who tunes in every week and gives their support. It's always much appreciated, and a thumbs up is always hugely appreciated if you haven't done that already. But until next time, have a great week, and I'll see you all in the next episode. See ya.